And so then I like to kind of get into this question of, so can you actually track whether you're bringing your clients leads?
Thanks to you, to be completely honest, yes, I can. I mean, I think when you're approaching a business and you're trying to sell yourself as like, and you know that like I can do a good job for you and I can generate more business for you, but as a business owner, I think most of the time they really want to see proof of that. And so I think being able to show them proof through conversions, whether that you've created through Google Analytics or your Facebook ad conversions or whatever, being able to like take that data and prove to your client that you're generating these results for them makes it much easier for both them and you to continue forward, because you know that you're adding value to their company. They know that you're adding value to their company. And honestly, without being able to prove that success, I think it would be a really difficult sell to try and sell yourself to clients to work for, because who's to say that you're going to be successful for them or not. And so and that's kind of where your course came in, is like you go through all that, and it was super helpful to kind of help organize that and wrap my mind around how to set that tracking up. And once it's set up correctly, it's really cool to see kind of results come in instantly, and you kind of have this real-time feedback loop of what's happening, what's working, what's not working, and it really helps guide your decision making.
All right. Hey guys, Jason Wilmot here, and I am with my good long-term friend, Scott DeBoer. And today what we're just going to talk about, we're just going to have a little dialogue about how Scott has a pretty similar story to mine, where I was in education about 4 8 years. Scott, I refer to him as Debo often. So he's been in education, but we both kind of have a similar journey where I exited education and got into this digital marketing world about 5 years ago. And always been kind of working towards how can we get Scott to kind of get into this field as well. And you have officially made that jump. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about what prompted you to take this jump, kind of the experience, the thought process, and ultimately kind of what was the hurdles that were involved in kind of hopping into this. So first of all, thank you, Scott, for taking the time off and
you bet.
Connecting with me today.
Happy to be here.
First question though. Well, good.
Yep.
So, I guess what prompted you to get into digital marketing in the first place? You and I were both in education. I was an educator about to go into administration. You were an administrator.
Yep.
And now you are no longer, you've kind of made the transition out. So yeah, tell me about what was the process or what prompted you, I should say, to kind of start your agency, get a first client, and then kind of get to where you are now?
That's a great question. So honestly, as a teacher, I was always kind of looking to find ways to make extra income. There's a lot of perks about teaching. The income wasn't necessarily one of them. So I was like, what are some things that I can do to earn an extra income for my family? And something that I didn't have to necessarily like leave the house to go to every night and like work nights somewhere, just something like that. And so, when I knew that you had gone into, you'd left education, gone into this digital marketing space, and it kind of provided a ton of flexibility for you with your schedule and being able to work from home and things. That's kind of honestly what got me interested in it. And then it was really just asking you a lot of questions about like, okay, so what are you doing here? And then how does that work? Because it was kind of a world that I didn't really know anything about. But the more that I started learning about it, and the more that I talked to you about it, I just felt like it was something that could provide a lot of opportunity. And at the time, I had no plan on it becoming my full-time job. I was, happy in education, and doing digital marketing stuff on the side was a great way to earn some extra income on my own time, on my own schedule. And honestly, through that, like, as I continued to do that for a couple of years, that just continued to open doors that I didn't even know, existed before I started looking into this field. Which eventually led to me accepting a position with a company, a local company where I'll be doing digital marketing for them. And then also still pursuing some things with my agency as well. So I don't know, it's kind of a weird path to get there. It wasn't something that I was necessarily expecting, but it just kind of happened like that.
Well, that's cool. So what are you going to be doing for this new company around what
So
digital marketing?
I'll be doing something really similar to what I was doing with my agency right now, which is running, online ads, and like whether it's through Facebook or YouTube, Google search, Google display, things like that, to try and generate new leads for this company that I'll be working for, which is really similar to what I was doing with my agency and what I do for clients right now with my agency. So um, that's kind of the goal is that type of thing. And it's, like I said, really similar to what I was doing already.
Sure. Well, thank you for sharing that. So one of the things that I try to help people understand the difference between what you're doing currently and what a lot of other people start off with is they get into digital marketing and they get into this idea of, I'm just going to go do social media posts for people, social media marketing. What's the difference between just creating a bunch of content and putting out posts versus running ads for people?
I think the thing that's different for me and the part of it that I really am intrigued by and enjoy and is challenging is when you're really trying to market to a specific audience, you're trying to sell a client's product basically. Okay.
Mhm.
And you really kind of got to get in the shoes of a potential customer, of like, what is it that's going to reach them? I'm not just going to blanket put out this post for anybody and everybody to see. I want to be mindful of the ad spend that my client is putting towards it, and to utilize that in the best way. So it's really kind of strategizing, like how can I take their ad spend and reach the right people with the right message with that ad spend, and try and generate revenue for that company. And so I think that's just different than, just blasting out a bunch of content on social media. It's much more targeted, I would say, in who you're trying to reach, and how you're trying to reach it. Maybe it's through Facebook ads, but maybe for that client, Facebook ads don't make sense at all, and you need to look
Mhm.
somewhere else, like YouTube or Google search or something like that. And so that's, I think, the main difference in my mind, and also the part that I really enjoy.
Cool. Um, and so then I like to kind of get into this question of, so can you actually track whether you're bringing your clients leads?
Thanks to you, to be completely honest, yes, I can. I mean, I think when you're approaching a business and you're trying to sell yourself as like, and that like, I can do a good job for you, and I can generate more business for you. But as a business owner, I think most of the time they really want to see proof of that. And
Mm.
so I think being able to show them proof through conversions, whether that you've created through Google Analytics or your Facebook ad conversions or whatever, being able to like take that data and prove to your client that you're generating these results for them, makes it much easier for both them and you to continue forward, because you know that you're adding value to their company. They know that you're adding value to their company. And honestly, without being able to prove that success, I think it would be a really difficult sell to try and sell yourself to clients to work for, because who's to say that you're going to be successful for them or not. And so and that's kind of where your course came in. Is like you go through all that, and it was super helpful to kind of help organize that and wrap my mind around how to set that tracking up. And once it's set up correctly, it's really cool to see kind of results come in instantly, and you kind of have this real-time feedback loop of what's happening, what's working, what's not working, and it really helps guide your decision making.
Yeah, well, thanks for saying that. That's fun to hear too. And I feel like the proof component. I like the word that you said, proof, because that's the one thing that I feel like it's always hard to kind of talk with clients when you're first starting out with this, because you're kind of nervous about, okay, what do we talk about? How do I, how you're giving me money to do, you're not only paying my retainer, but you're also paying your ad spend.
Yeah.
But then once you have this little component of proof, that just pretty much opens up to a pretty honest conversation, right?
It makes it much easier. It makes it much easier to be able to come to a client, however you structure your contract, but at the end of whatever time period you're starting off as, to say like, listen, this is proof of the results that we've given through the ads that we've run.
Mhm.
And it just makes the dialogue between you and the client have much more transparency in that dialogue, because everybody's on the same page. Like the numbers are right there, the tracking is right there. There's really no other way to spin it. And so it makes it, in my mind, really simple to have that conversation.
So let's rewind your brain to the very first conversion, right? The very first lead that you got for a customer. How did that feel? Like, how did you feel about presenting that to them too?
I mean, it's fun because like there's the setup that goes into it. It's typically maybe more work on the front end to get it all set up and to hope that your tracking is correct. And so once you start seeing, once you turn on your ads, whether it's on Facebook or Google search or whatever, and you start to see those impressions roll in, and you start to see conversion roll in, and then you can start digging into, okay, where did that conversion come from? What campaign did it come from? What ad set did it come from? Mm-hmm. It's really, I don't know, it's exciting because it starts to, I don't know, every conversion kind of like builds up your confidence a little bit more. Like, I know how to do this, and like this is generating like real results for them, and I can prove it right here with the conversion tracking that we have set up. And so, if you set all this up and never had conversions, it'd be a pretty miserable job probably. But the fact that you see real-time results is it's a fun feedback loop.
That's fun. I think that's like, that's the ticket, is like, I think the difference between like just posting social content online, right? Or you're just putting out content, is like, you really can't tell if it's working or not. Where I like the word that you said, real time. Like you can literally see in Google Analytics, real time, who's clicking on what, if they're converting. And then I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said like you can track down like which ad group, which source, like all of the metrics across the board.
Yeah, that's helpful to kind of dial in on like, okay, what is specifically working that we can try and put more ad spend towards in the future, and what's not working that we maybe need to think differently about and take some ad spend away from and put it towards something else. So actually having those real-time results with that conversion tracking and the other types of tracking, it's very useful, I would say.
If you were getting, if you were speaking to somebody who is interested in getting started in this, and they didn't quite know how to run ads or anything like that, one thing that I preach is like, just set up retargeting for businesses. Like do that first before you do anything, because you're just going to get them results. Why does retargeting, like, I'm sure you set up retargeting first because that's kind of the way that we approach it. We build our tracking, then retargeting. And like, why does retargeting work for businesses? Because the majority of businesses out there don't have it set up.
I mean, I think if you're just looking at it from like a basic level, if you're trying to get clients for whatever business it is, people who have actually maybe been to your website or put something in their cart without checking out, like they've shown some intent. They've already been there. They're not just some random person out of the internet. And so I think that if you're talking about being, responsible with somebody's ad spend, it makes the most sense to start there, just because those people have already shown intent in some sort of way, whether it's just they hit your website or they or something else. And so you can actually start targeting those specific people with ads to try and get them kind of over that hump, to whatever it is, to make a purchase, submit a request for an estimate for a service company, whatever it might be. And so I think that's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck to start off with, especially is, okay, let's take the people who already have shown some intent and let's start targeting those people with ads first.
I like that. Intent. That's the key word, right? It's intent. That's one of the biggest things. Like, yes, people are searching with intent. People might have intent on Facebook, but if you've been to somebody's website, you definitely have intent.
Absolutely.
So I want to back up a little bit. So when you first got into digital marketing, right? And I think this might be true for all of us, but we all hit our own individual walls. Like when you first tried to get into this, do you remember any walls that you were coming up against? And then what was kind of the thing to help you push past that?
I think really like the main wall that I hit is I didn't know what I didn't know. That's kind of a cliche thing to say, but like digital marketing, you hear that and it sounds like this huge world of a lot of things as a school administrator that like I didn't really know much about, to be completely honest. And so it's kind of like, well, where do I start? Like what platforms are there that people have success with? And so there's all these different things to learn. And so having and that's where I really leaned on you and relied on you in your course, honestly, is like having some like one place to go to where it was going to be laid out and explained for me, rather than me having to like hit all sorts of different sites or different YouTube channels to try and like gather all this digital marketing information, which you can absolutely do. But it's just like, it was so much easier and efficient for me to be like, okay, I'm going to log into this course and it's all laid out and like it's explained in a way that makes sense to me, where I'm not having to like search all over the internet to find this. And so as I started doing that, it was much easier for me to kind of wrap my head around this process, this idea, this world of conversion tracking, but then, creating your actual ads and working with clients, and just like, it was a one-stop shop, which I appreciated. And I wasn't having to go all over the internet to find these types of things.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I appreciate those kind words. I think,
Yeah.
it's time and energy lost. That's what it is. It's like, yeah, like that's what I've had to look all over YouTube and forums and all this other stuff. And then like, it is nice when somebody kind of puts it all together for you to just think about this not the right way, but in one.
In like a sequential way where it's not just all the scattered information, like you said, because you can get scattered information and there's good information out there, but like to have it in one accessible spot was really crucial for me to kind of like push through that wall and like, oh, okay, I'm starting to get this more. I understand it. And so that was helpful for sure.
Well, cool. I'm glad you spoke to that, because I think the framework of just how to think about this is most of the thought process. That's like the wall that most people just don't know how to get past eventually. And kind of my next question to you is like, if I were to present you with a client, who knows what they're doing, but let's say they run on leads, right? There's a lot of businesses who need leads, clients, customers.
Yeah.
Would you know how to build a funnel for that?
Absolutely. And it's kind of funny that, if you would have said those words to me like 2 years ago, I'd be like, okay, well, wait, back up. Like, what are you talking about? Whereas now, like, yeah, I feel confident that when you're talking about this sales funnel for a client to get them a lead, it starts at the top, and eventually people are going to work their way through this website until they get to that thank you page, usually of they submitted, submit estimate request. They click the button, boom, you have that conversion. But getting them there is often it takes different paths to get there. And so setting it up where you might have a top of funnel campaign to try and target people who are not even sure that they're interested in it. And then some people are going to click on that because they are interested, and they kind of move down to this next part of your funnel. And then you're going to serve them some different types of ads. And then they might get a little bit farther down without. And so it's just this process of setting up something that I can put in place ahead of time, and it just runs on its own. Yeah. And so my time is then just spent going into the back ends of those platforms like Facebook ads or Google ads, and looking at what's happened and making my decisions moving forward based on that. It's not necessarily revamping my whole funnel, but it's taking the funnel that I have and the data that's coming from it and seeing where best to move from there.
I like what you said there. I think, did you say autopilot? Or you said it just runs on its own?
It runs by itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like once it's set up, it runs by itself, and that's helpful.
Okay. So how does that feel? Now, this is one teacher or one educator to another educator.
Sure.
Where you and I literally, and I didn't hate my job. I liked my job a lot. I worked with, tons of kids, and I really enjoyed it. But it really boiled down to I'm literally trading my time for dollars. Like, how does it feel to be able to build something where, yeah, you said this earlier, it does take some initial setup. It takes a lot of setup, but eventually it just kind of runs on its own, right? How does it feel to be generating revenue for your family by building a machine that kind of works on its own?
I mean, it's been honestly a game changer. Like I said, when I first was looking for side jobs and education, I was doing all sorts of random things like writing test questions for random companies. And like, that just took a ton of time to like sit there and think and type these test questions out and send them back and get them resent and edit. So like, there was a ton of my time was taken up with that. This type of job, the time that I put into it is much more fulfilling, because it's more like, it's a creative type of time that I'm putting in of like, how can I kind of shift things to make this work better? It's not necessarily like, oh, I've got to spend 3 hours tonight doing this, and this. And so like, it's a huge time saver. And it's not like once it's done, you just let it go and it goes on its own. There's always things you can continually do to kind of optimize the success for your client. But at the same time, you get to do it on your own schedule, and for the most part, and you get to do it from anywhere in the world if you have a computer and internet access. And so that to me is like a huge game changer.
So, yes. Okay. So you went, and this is similar to me. So you went from education where you're spending a lot more than 40 hours a week. An administrator, what, you're spending 50, 55, 60?
Yeah, in a good week, probably. Yeah.
In a good week. So you now have a gig, right, where you've got a full-time job with a software company, a multi-million-dollar software company, right? They're not a startup.
No, they're not messing around. They're successful. Yeah.
And you are going to become more and more and more valuable as you do this. And so now you are literally working fewer hours from anywhere you want. You're making more money, and you're doing it on less time. Like, where do you see yourself? Like, where do you see yourself like in 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you put it like that, it's like, geez, yeah, you're right. I mean, that's a hard question. Where I see myself in 5 years. I think the interesting thing about this whole journey is that, like, where I'm at now, like the things that I'll be doing full time for my job will kind of like lend itself to maybe whatever I want to continue to pursue with my agency as well. And so like what I learn, I'm like learning all these new things I think kind of snowball into each other. And so where that takes me in 5 years, like, I don't know. It's hard for me to answer that, but I can say that I'm excited about the opportunities that I have now compared to the opportunities that I thought I had a couple years ago. Because I wasn't really sure what I was going to do a couple years ago when I thought about, you know, if I do something outside of education, like what would that be? And I really didn't have any answer to that. I knew that I might want to pursue something like that at some point, but I didn't know what that might be. And now I feel like I have a ton of opportunity outside of education, and really where that leads is yet to be determined. So I'll text you in 5 years, Wilma.
I like that. Well, hopefully we can be sitting on a beach in 5 years somewhere.
Yeah, or less.
On
That'd
this
be great.
Conversation. Well, yeah, but I think you said to the point, like, now you can work from anywhere. You literally, before we started rolling, we kind of talked about, are we sure that we want to stay in the same, you know, the space, the same town, city, all of this, and regardless if we do or not, you have the opportunity to go wherever you want and have the ability
there's more flexibility for sure.
You have the ability to continue to help people too.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think last question here. This is for people who are probably in the similar spot to where you were maybe 3 months ago or 6 months ago, and where I was 5 years ago. Somebody who's right on the cusp of, like, I don't know. I know, like, I know I'm dissatisfied in my current state, and I know there's more opportunity for me out there. What would you say to somebody who's ready to take that leap? What would you say, like, how did this program help you? And then what would you do to encourage them to take a next step?
I don't know where I heard this, but somebody said, like, there's never been a better time to invest in yourself than now. Like, whatever job you find yourself in, whether you're super happy in it or you're miserable in it, and you're maybe just considering what else is out there, I don't think it hurts to learn about something like this digital marketing space, because like we've talked about, like it provides a lot of flexibility, and it might open opportunities that you've never even considered. And so, like, when I say invest in yourself, I mean, like, learn as much as you can about this space, because it might be valuable moving forward. It might not be, but it might be. And I think that with, like, your type of course, like I said, the huge benefit that I saw from it was there was one spot where I could learn a bunch of this. And if I wanted to take different tangents somewhere else and search Google and YouTube to find other things, I could. But, like, it was one space where I could know that I could get a great base knowledge of this and build out something where I was able to start my own agency as well. So yeah, invest in yourself, learn as much as you can. Whether you use that in the future or not, who knows? But it's going to provide potentially opportunities that you didn't even know were out there.
I think that's very well said. And I think you're just like, you're spot on. Invest in yourself, start gathering up learning information. I mean, I couldn't imagine where I was 5 years ago. Like, I quit my job and it didn't go well. I didn't have a course.
I remember.
It was not pretty. and now it's like opportunities are coming left and right, and you kind of have to be choosy. And it's really fun to just be able to kind of put myself in a situation where, humbly, I'll say this, like I'm not, I didn't lose my job with COVID or any of this other stuff. And it's just like, it feels really good to be able to continue to be valuable in the market. And I don't see that going away. So anyways, Scott DeBoer, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you just being kind of open and transparent. And on a personal level, like I'm pumped that you've done this, and I'm excited about, who knows where we'll be 5 years from now. But I'm glad that you kind of took the leap. I'm glad that you've stepped into this new opportunity, and I'm excited to see kind of where our lives continue to go from here. So thank you for giving me your time and giving us some honest answers here.
Thanks a lot, Jason.
All right. Thanks.
All right. See ya.